Hi, everyone. Hi, welcome to day two of the Youth as Researchers conference. It is so great to see everyone. I am actually very excited to be here. I'm seeing some new faces. Welcome for those of you who weren't with us yesterday. Yesterday we had the various teams of young people presenting the findings that they would have garnered from the various research that they would have conducted in their areas and regions and within their teams, many of which were essentially very exciting and very insightful. And I just hope that today we can use this opportunity, use the session to really and truly bring forward some really critical points, especially as it relates to learning and well-being and the use of technology in the LAC as it relates in the context of COVID-19. Uh, Yesterday we would have had presentations from persons from Latin America, from Dominican Republic, from Brazil, from Haiti. And so today, as part of the research to action session, really and truly want to get to compound a lot of those insights and to hear from the various panelists and the different presenters and young people, how really can we formulate and bring this research from just being research in itself to actual actions and steps to be taken, to make it a better space, a better experience, especially for young people in the LAC, given the context of COVID-19. My name is Antoinette Dennis. I'm going to be your moderator for today. I am one of the UNESCO youth trainers for Latin America and the Caribbean, and it's really and truly a pleasure to be here with you. And so, for the duration of this session, we're going to be hearing from a series of speakers, right? And so, coming up, you're going to hear we're going to hear from Mariana, who is a social affairs officer with the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. We're going to be hearing from Nathaniel. We'll be hearing from Louis, who would have joined us earlier, and we're just going to get a whole lot of insights. We'll be using a fishbowl format. So for the young people who are here with us, and you have any questions, you'll have the opportunity to join or to indicate whether or not you have a question for any of our panelists, and so we can prompt you or have you prompted to pose those questions. So at this point in time, I'm just going to ask the various panelists just to give a brief introduction of themselves, give words on the topic in itself. Basically, we're focusing this afternoon on, you know, as I would have mentioned, we're focusing a lot on addressing the impact of COVID-19, and we're also looking at learning, well-being, and the use of technology in LAC. And so I'm just going to give the order, and then I can have you guys introduce yourself. So we'll start with Mariana. Then I'd love to hear from Nathaniel. Then we can move on to Mr. Salvino Barbosa. And then we can also hear from Mr. Louis. Yes. So we can also hear from Mr. Luis Lopez Farias, who is also from the Ministry of Social Development and Family Government of Chile. So we'll go in that order, and I'll just hand over to you now, Mariana, so you can introduce yourself briefly.
Hi, thank you, Antoinette. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Mariana Huepe. I work at UN's ECLAC, or in Spanish, CEPAL. I'm really excited to participate today. I think that your research is very valuable. Moreover, in this time where data has been very scarce about the impact on youth, and is more centered on on um, work or health, but not on mental well-being. So your research and your findings align very much with the work of the Social Development Division at the CLAC, where I work. And I'm particularly interested to share with you and to have an exchange on your findings. We are really focused on the importance at the CLACs We are really focused on the importance of increasing access to internet and digital devices, improving the effectiveness of virtual learning through teacher and student training, and development the digital and social emotional skills, as well as focusing on mental health. Therefore, I think that we are very much aligned, and I'm really looking forward to hear all your questions and engage with, in more depth with you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Nathaniel. I work for the data department of the Ministry of Dominican Republic. I think this is a great opportunity for us because this is what we're looking for now, for using data to develop action to hard you of the problem that you're facing now. And COVID-19 is something that is really up to date. And this is a great opportunity for us to get some insight and also there is some investigation from here, from the Dominican Republic. And we think that it would be very helpful for us.
Olá, amigos, boa tarde. Primeiro, começar me desculpando por não conseguir falar em inglês. É uma honra enorme para mim estar aqui nesse lugar, podendo compartilhar e dividir experiências com tantas pessoas incríveis. A pesquisa ela é muito importante, né? Ela aponta caminhos para a juventude, um futuro em que as mudanças que já vinham acontecendo, e eu acho que em especial aqui no Brasil, são aceleradas pelo processo da pandemia. Então, ter um lastro científico do que é esse momento é extremamente importante. Eu fico muito contente de estar aqui com vocês. Espero poder auxiliar e participar de maneira ativa nesse debate.
Hi, everyone. My name is Salvino de Oliveira. I am Rio de Janeiro Municipal Secretary for Youth. It's a really great pleasure for us to be here at this attending the Youth as Research 2021. For us, research is really important. We are working on the subject of research here at the Rio de Janeiro City Hall. As research, they appoints the changes that are happening, and it's a scientific legacy for us. And I hope to be helping, and I am thankful for being here.
Hi for all. Thanks for the invitation to participate in this great meeting. For INHUB Chile is a great opportunity because our service is working about or from the 19th, working in different research and studies for the youth. We have today 9 surveys, national surveys of youth, and this document it's a great way to know more about who is the youth people in our country and can know more about your research. Is to a great opportunity because we can do different public policies and share this work with other public actors or civil society organizations. Thanks for your invitation, and I want to know more about your work. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much for essentially that round of introductions. I really appreciate it. I'm sure a number of the young people here are actually excited and ready to pose their questions. And so essentially at this point in time, I'm going to just give a bit of a roundup of how we're going to do, the Q&As and what is expected of the participants. Now, Essentially, we're going to be using a fishbowl format. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to invite those of you who are here, if you're hearing me, uh, and to just I'm inviting you to pose your questions via the Q&A feature that is on the Zoom. You should be seeing it at the bottom of your screen. So if you have any questions, you can pose your questions there. While posing your question, you put your name and the question that you want to ask, you know, then the team will essentially be alerted so I'll know whether or not you are interested in doing so. And then we'll go in terms of the listing that we get so we can go in that order. Now, there are a number of persons who would or are interested in speaking. So I really and truly would suggest and recommend that if you have any questions, if you're here yesterday and you really, 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 really want those questions clarified, then you can you can um you can just pose those questions there. I'm going to start, however, with one of the persons who was with us yesterday. He was one of our he was essentially our first presenter, and he presented on the research that was present that focused on young people in Latin America and the Caribbean, which was the sub-regional report. And so I'm going to ask Geronimo to just be the first person in himself to speak to us and to pose a question that he perhaps may have.
Hi, how are you? I'm so glad to be here with you. My first question is for every panelist and speaker, and is how should the university contribute to the mental well-being of the students? Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm not sure which one of the panelists would be interested in taking on that question, but I guess we can, whoever wants
I
to.
can I can start to elaborate some ideas.
Okay, no problem. Go ahead, Mariana.
uh, I really enjoy your research. So congratulations for the research. And your recommendations were really interesting as well. And how universities can support the mental health of students. I think that one of the answers actually is one of your recommendations. To in the process of this hybrid education that we are confronting, it is important to not to put like so too much of a burden to the students, but to combine, how you say, synchronous and asynchronous education, but also giving the students the skills to learn how to manage this work by themselves, to learn how to manage the time, how to put also limits to their online life. So I think that the universities the universities and school institutions in general have an important role in promoting mental health, but also socio-emotional skills among the youth. Because one, this promotes happy citizens and active citizens, but two, also social emotional skills and mental health are really important for learning and for having a productive life. So it makes sense in various fronts.
Okay, thanks so much, Mariana. I'd really love to hear from the other panelists as well as it relates to Hermano's question. So if I could hear your take on it, Louis, that would be great.
Thanks, Antoinette. First, we have to measure this problem. Today, the mental health is the most important problem in the youth people. We can see this in different surveys or studies, and the youth research come to comprovate this problem in the youth people. Today, we have to measure in first time. In second time, we have to make different alliance work with other institutions to define a better way to work with the youth and talk about the mental health and adapt, make a line or work for to make more comfortably the online studies, the online class. In the example of InHub, our service, when I work, we have a program. His name is Hablemos de Todo. Like we can talk about that. And this program is a mental health program online. And this program can help to know more about the mental health, the different problems, and you can do different questions about these important issues. Today, the universities could take, for example, this program and do make in here own university with his students.
Okay, thanks so much, Louis. Really, really, really appreciate it. How about you, Salvino? What's your take on the question that would have been posed by Geronimo? What else can we do?
Obrigado pela pergunta, obrigado, Antonieta. Eu acho que são alguns movimentos, né? O primeiro deles, que a se pensar, é a volta dos alunos à aula presencial. E aí, como a gente pensa essa aula presencial, uma estrutura de atendimento psicológico a esses jovens que muitos deles perderam parentes para a pandemia, né? Em especial no Brasil, em que nós tivemos um número elevadíssimo de mortes. Então, como a gente pensa uma estrutura psicológica para esses jovens que estão voltando para as aulas presenciais agora? Essa é uma primeira coisa. Uma segunda coisa é como a gente pensa uma estrutura para esses jovens que viveram uma pandemia, se sentem esgotados e agora têm que retomar dentro de um novo normal. Esse é um grande desafio para a gente também. Então, eu acho que as faculdades, nesse momento, precisam pensar suas extensões, suas ações junto aos alunos do campo da saúde e dentro da própria estrutura da faculdade, uma maneira de pensar a saúde psicológica desses jovens, desenvolvendo habilidades socioemocionais, criando espaços de convivência e de troca para que eles consigam naturalmente voltar a uma rotina de novo normal que vem se mostrando cada vez mais real dentro daqui da nossa cidade, do nosso país.
So thanks for the question. I think that there's a lot of things to think about as when we approach this subject. The return of students to class, we should think, first of all, of how the students can be back to schools if they lost parents to the COVID. This is the first thing to think, and how the university can support the students and how can they approach and prepare a family space for them. The other thing is that university must think how students have another classroom. So they used to be studying at their homes, and now they will be back to university, back to school. So we must change these spaces and to a most comfortable one. So what we are proposing is to think in a participatory way so we can promote the mental health of students and create a space for exchanges so they can be back at a normal and real routine.
Okay. All right. Very well. Very well. Very fair and salient points. I definitely agree. Um, Nathaniel, I'm not sure if you would like to add anything in response to Geronimo's question.
Yes, of course. I think that university can play a crucial role in something that should be in the gene actually is of university, that is investigation. I think that university can make a really huge contribution, making investigation about what are the problems that cause stress and cause this kind of problem in youth, and then from those investigations, we can develop more effective public policy. Because I think the main and the first part of conducting public policy for any issue is knowing the problem, its size, and its causes. And investigation should be so the first part of this process, and the university can play a crucial role in this part.
All right. Thanks so much. I hope that answers your question, Geronimo.
Yes, yes, I'm so happy with all the responses. So thank you very much.
Okay. And do you happen to have a follow-up question based on
Yes,
anything, any other? Okay.
yes,
You can go ahead and pose that now.
thank you, Anthony. Well, another question is, how do we adapt interpersonal relationships in virtually? It's difficult, and I want to know how the university can promote the interpersonal relations in the virtuality.
Hold on. Geronimo, could you just pose the question one more time for me, please? Thank you.
Yes, the question is, how do we adapt interpersonal relationships in virtuality? Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Thanks. All right. So Louis, do you want to begin with answering this one? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, dear Antoinette. Um, it is a great question because it's a 21st century problem. Yes, we live today in the network and we do all the things in the network. I think it's a little hard, but it's a great challenge for us. Make a more human relation in the networks. Um, I think it's a is very difficult for me respond this with a great idea because I think we are learning today this way of life, but is a very important issue, and we have to find in some moment a way, a solution to do more human this relation. Um, Today we live between a, network and social like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and these have some um, is lo voy a decir en español, perdón, pero no puedo expresarlo en inglés todavía. Hay ciertas características que tienen que ver con forma en las que las personas se expresan por las redes sociales. The expression of the people in the social networks. Y lo que nosotros debemos hacer es mostrar una cara más humana. We have to show a more human face in the social networks and all the networks. Y tratar de construir una cultura and try to build a culture que no muestre siempre una sociedad tan exitista. Society who own all objects. Sorry. This is for me the key for try to do more or a better interpersonal relation in this space. Today is new, but we have to try to understand best and later find these solutions. Thanks.
All right, very well, very well. Thanks so much. Just a reminder to the participants that if you're interested in participating in the Q&A or joining the fishbowl, you can just use the Q&A feature of the Zoom platform. Just pose your name and also the question that you'd want to ask, and then we will prompt you, or I'll prompt and say when you can go ahead and pose your question. So just a reminder there. All right. So in response to the follow-up question from Geronimo, Mariana would love to hear your insights. If you could share with us.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I would like to agree with Luis about the importance of destigmatize mental health problems. We are not over in this pandemic yet. It's 1 year of something that is particularly important in our lives. So the youth should not think that the struggles that they're having is because of their fault. Mental problems is like a normal response of this situation that we're living. So I think that universities, educational centers, the state, even the youth themselves should collaborate in this destigmatization of mental health among each other. Also, I would like to highlight the importance of developing digital skills. First of all, not digital skills. I'm not talking about merely of, like downloading information, but the importance of discriminating about between fake news or real news, the importance of knowing how to communicate online, what to share, what not to share. That's a really important digital skills that are not only useful for the youth, but for adolescents and adults also. And I would like to highlight the gender aspect of mental health online. Women in general are more adolescents. I've been looking at adolescents and youth data, but women in general are more likely to suffer cyberbullying than men. And if we and this gap increases with age. I mean, as the older women are within this range of adolescents and youth, the more likely are they to suffer mental health problem because of their participation in Instagram. I'm talking about I don't want to say the older, actually, because I have data that compares people from 13 with people 17, and 17-year-old girls are more likely to suffer cyberbullying than 13-year-old girls, and way more than 17-year-old boys. So the gender aspect here is really important. That's what I have to say for now.
Okay, and you did make some salient points, especially when you spoke about, the gender disparity and the aspect of it that we have to look at in terms of the breakdown of it. So very good insights. Really appreciate it. I'm not sure. Salvino, do you have anything you'd like to add? Would love to hear from you. And also, Nathaniel, I'd also like to hear from you on this. And then we'll move on to the next person in the fishbowl.
Bom, eu acredito assim que nesse momento a gente deve olhar para o patrono da educação brasileira, Paulo Freire, entender um pouco de um modelo de educação em que Paulo Freire defende, né, em que a instituição de ensino e a comunidade estejam muito próximas. Eu acho que mais do que nunca, nesse momento, e concordo com a Mariana, que a gente ainda vive uma pandemia, mas mais do que nunca nesse momento, as faculdades, as universidades, elas têm que se fazer presentes no tecido social mais vulnerável. Então, ela tem que ter a capacidade de levar os seus alunos para a rua, para que eles consigam dialogar com a população que está fragilizada, com as comunidades fragilizadas num momento de pandemia, e isso, claro, respeitando os protocolos sanitários, mas mostrando um novo horizonte, um horizonte em que, e aí defendendo a ciência, em que o ensino deve imperar, a defesa do ensino deve imperar, e que esse ensino deve ser multiplicado. Então, como a gente acelera cidades que precisam se redesenhar economicamente no momento pós-pandemia a partir de um olhar de um jovem universitário que está ligado à comunidade. Isso é um braço do que a universidade pode fazer para gerar a interação social dos jovens no período pós-pandemia, inclusive dar uma resposta às cidades que precisam se redesenhar nesse momento que a gente inicia pós-pandemia. Uma outra questão é a utilização das redes sociais, como foi bem abordado pelos colegas que me antecederam, e que a gente tem que entender que a pandemia, mais uma vez repito isso, ela acelerou processos que já vinham acontecendo, e agora a universidade tem o desafio de se inserir nesse meio virtual que veio para ficar. Assim, então, como a universidade fala com o jovem que está dentro de diversas plataformas que são muito distantes ainda dessas instituições, né? Então, TikTok, Kawaii, Facebook, como as universidades se inserem, onde o jovem está inserido para um debate sério de sociedade, de cidade e de pós-pandemia. Porque se ela não está inserida onde o jovem está, ela acaba falando num vazio ou acaba se prendendo nas mesmas bolhas de sempre. Acho que esses são dois caminhos que a gente pode apontar para o papel da universidade nesse momento, para gerar ações sociais, para gerar engajamento dos jovens.
So thanks for the question. I believe that at this moment, we must look to the Brazilian education patron, Paulo Freire, who defends that the educational institutes can, and I agree with Mariana, they must be present in the most vulnerable social fabric, so that the students can dialogue at the moment of the pandemic, but also showing a new horizon that defends science. Cities also must redesign themselves at the post-pandemic moment through the eyes of the old. So this is very important to have a nice dialogue with the university and with cities managers. And another question is that the use of social network. As my colleague mentioned, we need to understand that the pandemic accelerated the process that were already happening. And now the university needs to insert itself in this virtual environment. And that is to say that we need to analyze the channels and how university inserts themselves and how young people are inserted, how youth is inserted in these channels. If it's not inserted, neither youth nor the university we happens to be speaking in a vacuum, so we won't be able to insert the youth in this dialogue.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Just a reminder to the participants, if it is that you want to join the fishbowl, the team is going to send you a prompt to be elevated to a panelist. And so you're going to need to accept that prompt to join the conversation. So it's important that you do so. All right. Also, I just to hear from Nathaniel on the question posed by Geronimo. What are your thoughts? What else do you think we can do? Let's hear your thoughts, and then we move on to the next person in the fishbowl.
Yes, I agree with what some of my colleagues have said. I think that social media now play a crucial role in interrelations. Youth people are using social media all the time. I think that institutions, universities should jump into that world as well. I think that we have to try to communicate and to do things more closer in the way that youth people used to do it. So that way we will have a more natural environment to work with them.
Okay, thanks so much, Nathaniel. I really appreciate it. I'm seeing where Fernando is indicating that they want to join. Well, Fernando rather is indicating where from Brazil is indicating where they want to join to ask a question. The team is trying to send a prompt, so if it is that you are ready, you can go ahead and pose your question.
So thank you for all the participants for answering the questions. I'm very happy with the answer of Brazil, calling Paulo Freire as a symbol for the education. And I have the question for our LAC community. Since you have a lot of marginalized originary people from our countries, our continent, and also the people from the peripheries that were the one that suffered, I would say, the most the impacts of COVID. I would like to know how it's being thought in Latin America, Brazil. This question of, you mentioned in the previous answer that there were problems that was already happening before, and the pandemic just exposed it more. So I'd like to know if your countries succeeded to give an answer to include these people for the digital literacy, to improve the education. So how did the pandemic make something in favor of these communities that are marginalized of the society? So my question is this one to summarize. Thank you.
Okay, that was quite a long one posed. I I don't know who wants to begin. Mariana, you want to go first?
Yes, I can elaborate on the inequalities that existed prior to the pandemic and which were exposed because of the pandemic, particularly, well, access to internet, particularly the rural territories in Latin America. They lack a quality access to internet, because it's not only access to internet, like the medium through which they are accessing is also important. Access to digital devices. Sometimes, for example, we as policy researchers, the household surveys ask, does this household have a device, have a computer? Yes, they do. But sometimes a household have only one computer. So, and they have to share, all the family members, this only computer. And sometimes they do have access to internet, but they depend on a certain amount of internet per month. So there are important inequalities. Also, for example, we are talking about safely returning to schools, but many of Latin American schools don't even have water, don't even have the infrastructure to ensure a safe return to school. So hopefully we as policymakers, as governments, and as civil society in Latin America can come together, and we can understand that we are in an important moment which is, if we do not make something now, we can risk generations lost, or maybe we can risk having higher costs in the future. So it is an important moment now to invest in schools, invest in universities, ensure access to internet as a human right, to prepare our youth for the for the challenges of the 21st century and to have resilient educational systems.
Okay, thanks so much. Let's move on to you, Salvino. What would be your response to Fernanda's question?
Bom, eu vou falar agora um pouquinho mais rápido, porque essa é uma questão que me toca bastante. Acho que a pandemia, ela evidencia ainda mais as veias abertas da América Latina, em especial no Brasil, em que a gente tem um líder, um presidente que é abertamente anti-vacina, abertamente anti-ciência, e as nossas populações marginalizadas e originárias ficaram quase que absolutamente sozinhas na luta contra a pandemia. Larissa, você pode assumir que eu vou para o próximo bloco.
Okay, so thanks for the question. This is a question that touched me very much. The pandemic shows and evidences the open veins in Latin America, and especially in Brazil, where we have a president who is openly anti-vaccine and anti-science. So original and marginalized societies were left alone in the pandemic.
O que a gente tem no Brasil, na verdade, é a ampliação das desigualdades já existentes e um novo modelo um novo tecido do terceiro setor se origina dessa ausência, né? Quando a população mais vulnerável mais precisou do Estado, o Estado se mostrou mais ausente, sem capacidade de dar uma resposta efetiva e eficiente para a pandemia. Nesse sentido, em especial os jovens de favelas e periferias, os jovens negros, os jovens indígenas criaram ferramentas de inovação e tecnologias sociais capazes de dar uma resposta mínima a essa questão.
So what we have in Brazil is the implication of evident inequalities and a new fabric on the third sector that originated from this absence. The third sector, they started to implement some projects and social projects to help these vulnerable societies. As the state, as the state has shown itself to be absent in the sense, especially for young people from the favelas and regional native Brazilians, they have created new technologies and means to give a minimal response to this question.
Os jovens negros de favelas e de outras minorias sociais no Brasil se organizaram, criaram organizações do terceiro setor capazes de dar essa resposta, né? Então, se uniram para doar cestas básicas, se uniram para doar água para quem não tinha abastecimento de água regular, se uniram para levar informações sobre a pandemia para aqueles que mais precisavam, enquanto o governo se mostrou completamente omisso e a favor de medicamentos como cloroquina.
Young black Brazilians and slum dealers and other social minorities organized themselves and created organizations in the third sectors that were capable of giving this response, the response that was responsibility of the state, and the state could not act. So they united to give water to those who needed the most, to take information, to spread information about the pandemics to those who were not able to have access to internet and other facilities. And it was really important because it was at the moment that the government showed itself to be negligent and in favor of medicines that didn't work.
All right. Thank you so much, Salvino. Really appreciate it. I'm not sure. Do you have anything that you think, is pivotal to the question posed? Would you like to add?
Yes, I think the pandemic only show more strong inequality in the different issues like access to internet between the men's and women's, between the rich and the poor, between the formal and informal jobs, and between other realities in our countries. Um, we have to do very important things to um, take to try to change these problems. Like Mariana says, do access to internet and other infrastructures in our countries, because many students, for example, can't study from his house because obviously don't have internet and don't have computers and don't have a space, physical space to study, for example, with all the commodities to do in the right way. Um, we have to think how we can do for the youth people better employment and um, reactivation work to give more um, employment, plaza de trabajo, quiero decir, o sea, mayores plazas de trabajo. Finally, I think how will be the world work in a new normality, because the pandemic adapt the work, yes, from the presential to the virtual work, and today we live in um, a zone with maybe you can work in from your house, for example, or you can go to work in your office, and in many in the or with different people, this is a possibility, and other people is not a possibility. Then you have to try to build a more equitative opportunity for all the people can think if prefer work in her house or work in the office, for example. The pandemic showed many things in the in our countries. We have to start to see more seriously.
All right. Thank you so much, Louis. Thank you. And as for you, Nathaniel, based on the work that you would have been doing as a young researcher, and being in, especially as it relates to Dom Republic, what would be your response to that question? Is Nathaniel still with us? No. All right. No problem. Fernando, I'm not sure if you are if you're satisfied. I hope you are. We got some really robust responses. All right, great, excellent. And do you happen to have a follow-up question? Okay, no problem.
Antoinette, we can hear you. Your microphone.
So sorry. Okay. So sorry about that, everybody. So I was saying, yeah, sure. We would have gone through. I was saying thank you first of all to the panelists for giving such a robust response, especially to Fernanda. I think yesterday, a lot of the pointers that came out and a lot of the clarifications that we're getting now from you, the panelists, especially what's based on the insights that are essentially coming from your various countries. Um, that we see where throughout the region there are a lot of similarities do exist, especially as it relates to disparities in terms of education and the impact of COVID-19 and how and the lens through which we can assess those. And so just going to reiterate how absolutely mind blown I was yesterday when I realized that, even in the context of Haiti, we had two different presenters, and it was highlighted by one of the technical advisors that even in highlighting the outcomes or the the findings from the research in one country, it showed different disparities from the different areas of the country that the participants were from and that they garnered information from. And so I think it shows that there's still a great level of work that we need to do, having young people so critically and in-depthly involved in understanding the impact of COVID-19 and understanding the Hi, everyone. We can hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. I'm not sure what just happened, but I completely got kicked off for some reason. So sorry about that. So yeah, I was saying that it shows and it highlights, the research that we're seeing, the different disparities that exist and the impact or the various challenges that COVID-19 in itself has brought on to the existing challenges that would have been taking place. So I just think that what we're doing now and having this level of dialogue is just absolutely critical, and it's definitely something that we need to look at. I guess I guess I guess I 1 second. Just give me 1 second. All right, so I think at this point in time, Alexander wants to pose a question. So I'm just going to ask him to go ahead and ask his question so the panelists can respond. Yeah, so I was saying, Alexander, I realize that you're the next person who is up in the fishbowl, and if you have your question, you can just go ahead and pose it, and I'll have
Hello.
the respond. Yes.
Hello, good afternoon. My question is, what is the new perspective that the university we can take about the online classes? especially with the learning methodology applied with in the courses.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Um, Alexander, could you just go ahead and pose your question one more time for us? I didn't hear it very clearly. I'm not sure if the panelists did.
Okay, I can. What is the new perspective that the university will can talk about the online classes, especially with the learning methodology?
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Mariana, how about you start with responding
Okay.
to his question?
Yes. I don't know if it's only online learning, but I think that because it also applies to in-face learning, I think. But I think that it's really important to incorporate non-cognitive skills in teaching, making students critically question what they're being taught, to motivate students to try to apply the learning to the context in which they are being taught. Because if the student is not motivated, it is not how some of your some of your research has shown. If the students lacks motivation, probably they're not going to put too much effort on learning. Therefore, to combine non-cognitive skills in every class. For instance, in math class, you can also like involve critical thinking. In economy, you can involve critical thinking and making students maybe to collaborate in groups so they can develop social skills, and that these groups change in time, so students learn how to work with different people. For the future of work, I mean, the youth is going to face a labor market that is changing and is going to be changing. Therefore, I think that while it is important that they learn content, like the fundamentals of knowledge, it is also important that they learn resilience and social skills, which are very much going to be valued in the labor market and are very much going to be useful in their lives.
All right. Thanks so much. How about you, Nathaniel? Would love to hear from you on this, and then we're going to move on to the next person in the fishbowl. All right. So, not hearing from Nathaniel right now. So I'm just going to ask Marlene from the Haiti team. She has a question that she wants to ask, and so I'm just going to give her the opportunity to do so now. Okay, so it seems we've also lost Marlene. So, so sorry about that, everybody. Let's just move on. Let's go to Aldoli. He's our next panelist. well, who's our next panelist? You can go ahead and pose your question now. Hope you're still with us.
Dans nos recommandations, nous avons demandé le recrutement de jeunes universitaires dans le domaine de l'informatique pour qu'ils puissent former les enseignants. Quelle assurance pouvons-nous avoir à ce sujet?
Okay, excellent question. Thanks so much. Louis, how about you start in terms of answering that question?
Thanks, dear Antoinette. I can understand the question because I hear this in other language, no in English. So sorry. If you can translate, I can to try to respond.
Je comprends
Okay.
bien, mais je n'ai pas de part.
All right, let's see if we can start with Mariana, and then I will try to explain as best as possible once she has given her response.
Yes, I think that what she was asking was how do we involve companies and the private sector to help or to support teachers in their digital classes, like to have digital skills. That was the question. Well, if it was that, I think.
Yeah. So in addition to that, and also she did mention something about training for like
Training.
teachers.
Yeah. I think that teacher training is really important because they are the ones that are closer to the students, so therefore they have to have the digital skills. And in teacher training, public and private collaboration is really important. So, but it's also important. I don't really know how can we actually do it, because it depends on the structure of each country, I think. But yeah, I completely agree that public and private collaboration in teacher training is important. I think one of you guys had I don't know if it was your project or not, but one of the recommendations was to have a helpline in case of technical problems. But in teacher training, I think it's more than a helpline that we need. So I let Luis elaborate on these questions, because maybe he has more knowledge about public-private collaboration in teacher training.
Many thanks, Mariana. I think the private sector can help with the teachers to do different solutions. For example, with research like infrastructure, with networks, classroom, and other technologies to make more comfortable the learning. With improve in the education too, yes, and the classic education and the skills development is a very important way to help with the teachers. Creating new solutions with technologies, because I think in these years the online studies is the classic class that we had in the university, when I go to university in some years ago, but we have to change this. Yeah, you can't to do the classic class in with your computer. You have to do something more funny, in simple, more funny, because you have to motivate the students, and finally you have to adapt or change the way the work in a new style with complement the presential and no presential employment, and the teachers we can receive this, and in between a public and private cooperation, work together to adapt the academic development in different levels, from the primary to secondary and university too. And like capacitaciones, you have a little course to is necessary to improve to adapt the new jobs or the classic jobs and careers to the new context that we live.
Okay, thank you very much, Louis. Really appreciate it. Uh, I believe we have Marlene back with us. I hope that answers your question, Aldoli. I really hope it does and it helps a lot. I want to move on to Marlene G so she can pose her question and have the panelists respond. You can go ahead, Marlene.
Okay, hello everybody. So sorry for the internet issues earlier. So the Haitian group, we had a question. We would like to know actually, considering the data collected during our researches, how important psychosocial well-being should be for the decision makers. And I will ask the question in French. Dans quelle mesure le bien-être psychosocial devrait constituer une priorité pour les décideurs? Thanks.
All right. So thanks so much. Salvino, you heard her question? So I'd really love if you could respond or start the round of responses.
Bom, aqui no Rio de Janeiro, a gente tem alguns pilares para a tomada de decisões, né? E o bem-estar certamente é um desses pilares. Como a gente consegue pensar saúde mental, empregabilidade, inclusão produtiva e educação do jovem dentro de um plano de trabalho, né? E isso a gente se utiliza muito de dados e diagnósticos territoriais da realidade da juventude. Então, a gente tem, por exemplo, aqui, para além do censo comunitário, que é realizado a cada 10 anos, a Secretaria de Juventude desenvolve pesquisas quantitativas e qualitativas para entender quais são as demandas dos jovens e conseguir dar uma resposta que seja, ao mesmo tempo, eficiente, no sentido de resolver o problema, mas que também seja inclusiva. Então, como a gente faz uma construção de política pública que seja horizontal e dialogue com os jovens? E a gente tem apostado muito aqui no Rio de Janeiro num programa chamado Geração Transformadora, que é um programa que busca incluir, fazer que o jovem participe dos espaços de decisão. Então, a gente tem, por exemplo, o Laboratório de Mediação Sociopolítica da Juventude, em que os jovens recebem uma bolsa para debater cidade. Quais são os problemas da cidade, qual é o futuro da cidade, como eles estão enxergando isso. Em saúde, educação, cultura, bem-estar, em vários outros campos da nossa cidade. Isso é um dos programas. A gente tem um outro também chamado, por exemplo, de Sementes do Amanhã, em que a gente pede para que os jovens façam uma reflexão numa ágora do que é a Agenda 2030 e das metas para 2030 que a gente tem que cumprir enquanto nação, enquanto mundo, né? Então, são espaços de mediação sociopolítica e de participação ativa dos jovens para que a gente consiga construir políticas públicas capazes de dialogarem com os jovens e de resolverem os problemas que a gente tem na nossa cidade.
Okay, so thanks for the question. Well, here in Rio de Janeiro, we have some pillars while taking decisions and while planning our policies or public policies for youth. So one thing that is really included in our organization, in our planning, is to how the mental health can work in the education of young people, how we can include it. So in the Secretary of Youth, we use a lot of territorial data. We use quantitative and qualitative data. And apart from the census, the Brazilian census that is carried out every 10 years, we have here at the Secretariat, we also make some qualitatives and quantitative research in order to solve some problems and propose solutions. The Secretary of Youth holds two important projects. The Geração Transforma, that means transformative generations, and the Sementes do Amanhã, the Tomorrow Seeds, that proposes objectives and actions related to the Agenda 2030 from the UN, and how we can localize this agenda in the city of Rio de Janeiro to include the youth in the decision making, and how we can target the goals and targets from the agenda. So one thing that we include here at the Secretary of Youth is data that we produce, and that is the basis for our project planning.
Okay, thank you so much. We just have a little over 10 minutes left in the session. Time goes by very quickly, but before we close off, I really want to hear from Mariana, just to give a response to that question, and then also want to hear from you, Louis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, well, socio-emotional well-being have emerged as a key subject during the pandemic because of the effects that because of the struggles that both teachers and students have faced. And although there have been a lot of scattered efforts, and some teachers have been put a lot of efforts in addressing the emotional needs of their students, I am afraid that this have not been yet a systemic effort. So it's not ingrained in the educational systems in our region. However, I think that because it has emerged, social emotional well-being has emerged as such a key subject, as such a key and important subject, we should take this time to think about restructuring, about the restructuration of educational systems to include, hopefully as soon as possible, social emotional well-being because of our students, because this is really important, for example, to motivate students to continue studying. Many of the students have been like for more than a year away from education because many students have not had internet access. So how do you engage these students to continue learning? It is important to motivate them, and for that it is important to train in social emotional skills, not teachers, for them to be able to motivate these students, and also in processes of learning recovery, where you also need a lot of adjusting to students' needs, and teachers, they have been trained to teach their subjects, but many of them do not have the training to address the social emotional needs of their students. So therefore, I think that Latin America must have social emotional well-being and social emotional skills as a key part of their educational system in this moment of restructuration.
Okay. Thank you, Mariana. Louis, you can go ahead and pose your
Thanks.
response.
Socio-emotional is a great problem because it translates in a learning problem in the class and obviously in the all education system. From now of the new year, we have to integrate this area in the learning process and in different levels from the primary, secondary, and obviously in the university. It's very important to show the relevance for this area, and they might take all the attentions possible to work in um, um, make a different work in the social emotional problems in the people. It's a great, very important area today.
I would like to add something.
Okay, you can go ahead, Mariana. And then I'm just going to, after you, Mariana, just want to briefly take one last question from Geronimo. He had his hand raised. So we'll take one last question.
No,
We'll
sorry.
ask the
So
guest.
you can continue then because we are short in time. I understand.
Yeah. Okay, Geronimo, ask a question for me, please.
Thank you. It's a honor to ask the last question, and is what do you think is the role that the government should assume in virtual education?
All right, so just to make sure I have that right, you asked what do you think, what role should the government assume in mutual education? What was the word used?
Yes, I mean with promote the and give package of data and
Okay, all right, no problem. Okay, all right. So briefly, we have about 5 minutes left. So I'm going to ask Mariana, you can begin, then we can go to Louis and we can close off the session with your response, Salvino.
Okay, really quickly, I think that governments should ensure, of course, access to internet. Hopefully at the at the household level, but if not, maybe explore the alternative of public libraries available at locally at the municipal level. Also, access to education, access to devices. So every child or every adolescent and youth should have access to a laptop to do their homework and educational research. And finally, I think that governments should really tackle digital skills today, and for that having train teachers, but they also can have like videos, a web page, a social media site where students could go and see videos and learn how to engage, how to use the digital world for their benefit, and not get caught up in this digital world, in the online world.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Mariana. Louis, 15 seconds just to give a quick response. We're
Yes,
almost over time.
I think today we have many space with virtual education. And in the public sector, we have two different programs. For example, in INHUB Chile, we have the program Campus INHUB. It's like a virtual space when you can know more about a different different areas. The government have to share and share more with the people the access to these programs. And this can make a great difference between the universe of people who use this program today and who maybe can use it if more people know about these programs.
All right, thanks so much. And you, Salvino, your last point as we close out.
Obrigado, pessoal. Bom, eu acho que o grande compromisso dos governos nesse momento é de fazer com que as aulas presenciais voltem a acontecer. A sociabilidade das crianças, dos adolescentes e dos jovens, ela se dá majoritariamente dentro do colégio. Então, é muito importante que os protocolos de segurança sanitários respeitados, a gente consiga fazer com que as aulas presenciais voltem. Esse lugar do colégio, da faculdade, para os nossos jovens é muito importante. Para além disso, concordo completamente com a Mariana. Assim, nós precisamos fazer com que as nossas crianças tenham acesso a uma internet de qualidade, porque o ensino e a pandemia, mais uma vez repito, acelerou o processo, ele se tornou híbrido. Então, como a gente capacita os professores e os alunos para esse novo formato semipresencial, como a gente traz, por exemplo, as redes sociais para dentro do debate da educação. E aí, eu sou um grande defensor de Paulo Freire, eu acho que as instituições de ensino no Brasil e no mundo ainda estão muito presas ao século passado. Elas precisam se atualizar, estar dentro do cotidiano do jovem, para que a gente consiga, dessa maneira, reduzir a evasão escolar, dar um sentimento de pertencimento a esse jovem. Então, as instituições de ensino têm que estar ligadas aos territórios, às comunidades, para que eles se sintam pertencentes, ligadas à família e às outras instituições. A educação ela é transversal e perpassa diversas outras partes. Então, como a educação está dialogando, por exemplo, com a saúde, está dialogando com a segurança alimentar do jovem, com várias outras áreas que são tão importantes. Os governos têm que se comprometer com essas questões, tratar a educação nesse momento como prioridade numa retomada ao novo normal, que se diga novo normal nesse momento. As nossas crianças elas passaram muito tempo, em especial as mais pobres, dentro de casa. E, nesse sentido, muitas delas tiveram um ensino muito defasado. E agora, a gente tem o dever e a obrigação de correr atrás desse prejuízo. E acredito que alguns desses caminhos que eu apontei possam mostrar a médio, curto prazo, um indicativo de solução para esse problema.
So thanks for this last question. And I believe that we need to strengthen the security protocols to guarantee the classes and the accessibility of students so students can be safe at schools. We also need to make sure our children have real access to internet, as Mariana stated. This is really important, and we are working this here at Rio de Janeiro City Hall. We also need to train teachers and students in this social virtual format, this new normal. And for this, we need to bring the debate to the virtual one, as Luis said. And I am a defender of Paulo Freire, and I think that the institutions must modernize itself and be part of the knowledge and experience of the youth. So they should feel belonging to these places, and the government and the university must think about education and students while proposing their public policies. And so they need to relate educations with other very important areas such as health, food systems, food security, and as education must be a priority for the new normal. And we have the obligation to run after the losses of these last years. Our students spent 1 year in the background, so we need to rethink and state all these important aspects in the planning of new public policies.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. That's all we have time for. And so I'm just going to thank all the participants who are here with us today, to the YAR team, to the UNESCO team, and to our panelists. Thank you so much for joining us, and to all who post questions. Looking forward to seeing you. Remember to join all the other sessions that are coming up, and continue to really champion for the cause and to find solutions in themselves to how we can benefit and improve the lives of our young people and the region in itself. So thanks so much for joining us. That's all we have today. And it was great being here with you.